Welcome to the Connect with BMC Helix webinar series. During today's webinar, you're able to ask questions of our panelists. The questions and answers, along with today's broadcast, will be published to our YouTube channel. Today's topic is unleashing BMC Helix Virtual Agent, and Daniel Aguirre will take us through this content. Over to you, Daniel.
Thank you, Greg. Hi, my name is Daniel Aguirre. I work with the BMC Helix platform support team. I've been working for BMC for about 4 years, and today I will be leading this webinar, showing you the virtual agent and some of the features of it. This is the list of topics we are going to review today, starting with virtual agent overview, then going to a brief IBM Watson introduction. Then we are going to check how to start with the virtual agent, then transitioning to few customization options for the chatbot, then troubleshooting, and finally some documentation references. What is virtual agent? It's an application that interacts with users through natural language, understands the conversation context, and performs tasks on behalf of the end user, such as creating service requests, searching on the knowledge base, or transferring the conversation to a live agent. Some of its capabilities are immediate assistance to issues by providing easy-to-find information, reduction in human error and dependency by eliminating human intervention for certain tasks, speed and efficiency to reduce cost and resources. Virtual agent key features. Multi-language support. Has the ability to train the chatbot in multiple languages to support end users across the globe. Real-time translation. Can be enabled in chatbot conversations so that end users can interact with the chatbot in a language of their choice. Omni-channel engagement. End users can interact with chatbot through multiple channels, including Skype, Slack, Microsoft Teams, web, and SMS. Current integrations include business workflows and digital workplace advanced. Share chat conversation as email. End users can request for the transcript of the chat and receive this transcript on the registered email address. Live agent support. End users can be transferred to a live agent to get issues resolved quickly in case virtual agent is unable to help. Smart reporting. Provides reporting information into how the end users engage with the virtual agent and what actions it is taking to resolve issues. Raising requests. Users can create service requests from the virtual agent conversations. This image depicts the top-level structure of virtual agent, including 3 tiers, from left to right: IBM Watson, BMC Helix, and channels through which it can be used. A user interacts with the virtual agent using the channels. The message is sent to the IBM Watson, which contains the conditions to evaluate the message received. Based on the processing of the message, a request is passed from Watson to Helix applications such as digital workplace or business workflows. These Helix applications perform the required action and send the results back to the virtual agent, which forwards it to the channel. Actions can be creating a service request, showing knowledge articles, or responding questions. As we saw in the previous image, Virtual Agent uses IBM Watson to process the messages and act accordingly. But what is IBM Watson? It's a system based on artificial intelligence capable of answering questions formulated in natural language by the users. There are some key concepts we need to be familiarized with in order to understand the IBM Watson language. These are: assistant is a container for your dialogues or skills. You add skills to an assistant and then deploy the assistant when you are ready to start helping the users. Dialogue or skill is the component where you build the conversation that your assistant has with your end users. It's a branching conversation flow that defines how your application responds when it recognizes the defined intents and entities. Intents are purposes or goals that are expressed in a customer's message. By recognizing the intent, the assistant can choose the correct skill flow to respond to the message. When creating an intent, its name always starts with hash character. Entity represents information in the user message that is relevant to the user's purpose or intent. When creating an entity, its name always starts with add character. As an example, a user types help to reset my Helix ITSM password in the virtual agent. The intent or goal in the message is resetting our password. We can identify it because it's usually the verb in the message. The entity would be Helix ITSM. We can identify it because it's usually the noun in the message and because it's related to the intent. I need to reset my password. Okay, I got it. In what application? The response is our entity. Now we are going to move to our first demo, in which we will see how these concepts work together. Let's create a basic assistant that provides information about different menus a restaurant offers to customers. Log into IBM Watson and click on Assistants link. Then click on Create Assistant button. Type a name for the assistant. And click on Create Assistant. Click on Add Dialog Skill button to relate the skill to the assistant. Type a name for the new skill under Create Skill tab. You can also select a locale different than English. Then click on Create Skill. The assistant and the skill have been created. Let's start configuring the skill conversation. Click on the skills link and select the skill we just created. On the left side, you can see the different skill configuration options, and on the right side, information about the setting you select. Click on Intent, and then click on Create Intent. This is where we start to train the assistant. We are going to provide information about the menu, so let's name the intent as Menu Request. Which is an action or a verb. Remember, the intent name always starts with hash character. Click on Create Intent. Now we have to add user examples. These are nothing but different ways users would ask for information about the menu. On the user example field, type the first example and click on Add Example button. The entry will be displayed at the bottom. You can add more user examples as needed. To save some time, I have added 3 more user examples. Go back to the skill configuration options. Now let's create the menu options. Click on My Entities, click on Create Entity, and name the entity as Menu Options. These would be nouns. Remember, entity name always starts with add character. Then click on Create Entity. This restaurant offers 3 menu options: bakery, vegan, and standard. Add the first option under Value field, then click on Add Value, and the entry will be displayed at the bottom. You can add more values as needed. I added the other two options. Go back to the skill configuration options. Now, let's create the conversation logic. Click on Dialog. As you can see, we already have two dialog nodes, the Welcome node and the Anything Else node in case the assistant cannot understand what user type. Let's create the menu request dialog node. Select the Welcome node and click on Add Child node. Type a name for the new node. We have created the request menu dialog node, but how the assistant will know that the user is requesting to see the menu? Well, the answer is when user types one of the examples we have configured in the intent menu request. To specify the intent this dialog node will use, select it under If Assistant Recognizes section. Now let's configure the response the assistant will provide, in this case the menu options. But before presenting them, the assistant will display a text. Now let's add another response that will display the menu options as buttons. Click on Add Response Type. Then, from the menu, select Option. We can add some text before the options under the title field, but due to we already have a response for that, let's add the menu options directly. Click on Add Option button, and the information on the value column must match the intent we configured for the menu options. So let's add the first menu option. To add the other two options, click on Add Option. I have added the other two menu options to the list. Now let's configure the dialog node that will show the menu option information based on the user selection. So click on the Request Menu dialog node and then click on Add Child node. In this dialog node, we are going to configure the information displayed when the user selects Bakery option. So let's name it first. Then, under If Assistant Recognizes section, let's select the entity. If the user selects Bakery, we are going to display the information for this menu option. Let's do the same for Vegan and Standard menu options. Now we have configured the dialog node for all the menu options. Let's test the assistant. Click on Try It button. The first thing we can see here is the Welcome dialog node response, which is the first in the skill. Type one of the user examples we configure in the intent, and then select an option from the menu options. The Try It conversation will show you the dialog node in which you are and also the entity you hit under the given dialog. Of course, it will show you the responses as well. If you want to try another combination, click on Clear Link and start typing another user example and select a different menu option. This concludes the demo. After reviewing the IBM Watson key concepts, let's see how to set up our virtual agent. There are three main steps involved in this activity. Step 1. Create our chatbot in Innovation Studio. Step 2. Connect the IBM Watson Assistant to our chatbot using its workspace ID. And Step 3. Configure the chatbot to work with a channel. Let's see how this is done in our next demo. The first thing we need to do is to create the chatbot. So log into Innovation Studio and under Workspace section, click on the BMC Chatbot application link. click on the chatbots option, and then click on New. Type a unique name for the chatbot and click on Save button. You will be automatically redirected to the chatbot configuration options. Click on the new link under Chatbot Skills tab. At this point, we need to log into IBM Watson and go to the Skills section. Select the skill you want to use and click on the three vertical dots icon, then select API Details option. Let's copy the API key first, so click on the Copy to Clipboard button and go back to Innovation Studio. Paste the information on the API key field. Go back to IBM Watson, and this time we are going to copy the skill ID. Let's paste it on the Workspace ID on Innovation Studio. Click anywhere on the screen so that Innovation Studio can download the skill information. When you are able to see the skill locale, you can save the settings. If you want to test the chatbot, click on the Launch Chatbot button and start the conversation. As a final step, we need to connect our chatbot to a channel. In this case, we will display the chatbot from Digital Workplace application by replacing the out-of-the-box live agent chat with the chatbot we just configured. First, we need to get the chatbot access link from the web browser. Copy the URL and log into Digital Workplace Administration Console. Go to Configuration, Virtual Chat, and replace the existing URL. Hit Save, and now we can go back to Digital Workplace application and test the link. We can start a conversation from here. This concludes our demo. Now, let's see how to integrate the virtual agent with Digital Workplace Advanced. This feature enables users to create service requests and resolve questions by using the Remedy knowledge management base from a virtual agent conversation. The service requests include conversation data or service request questions that enables you to define a conversation flow between the virtual agent and the user. There are three steps when performing this integration for the first time. 1. Enable the Digital Workplace Advanced integration. 2. Import the service request from Digital Workplace Advanced. And 3. Configure interactive chat options in the virtual agent conversation for the service request if needed. The next time you want to import a service request, you only need to perform the step 2 and 3 as optional. Let's move forward to a demo. The first thing we need to do is to create the connection between Digital Workplace Advanced and Innovation Studio, also called BMC Helix Platform Connection. Log into Digital Workplace Advanced and go to Services, Connectors. If you already have this type of connection, verify it's working by selecting it and clicking on Actions, Test Connection. If everything is alright, you will see the connected status. In case you don't have any BMC Helix platform connection, click on New Connection, type a unique name, select the option BMC Helix platform from the connector menu field, and hit on Save. Connection options will be displayed. Add the Innovation Studio URL, admin credentials, and the Trust Self-Signed certificate, and then click on Save. If the data is valid, you will see the connected status for the new connection. Once this is done, you can publish service requests in Chatbot. Click on Services, Services, Publish tab, and search for the service request. Before proceeding, let's see how it looks like. Select it, click on Actions, and click on Edit. Then click on Edit under Workflow, and then under Questions, click on Edit. As we can see here, the first question will ask the user to select the action that needs to be done. These are reset my password or unlock the account. In the second question, the user will have to select the application in which the action will be performed. We have 6 options here. The first 2 questions are required and the rest of them are hidden, so they won't be displayed on the chatbot. Let's go back to the Publish tab. With the service request selected, click on Actions, Enable in Chatbot. The Publish Chat Enable Service wizard will be displayed. What happens behind the scenes when we enable a service request in Chatbot is that the wizard will modify the IBM Watson skill related to the chatbot selected by adding a dialog, intents, and other configurations. Let's start. On the Cognitive Service Provider tab, select the chatbot in which you want to enable the service. The publication space field will show you the IBM Watson skill to be modified. Click on Next. On the Service to Chat Enable tab, the service name will be displayed. This also represents the IBM Watson skill dialog name. In this case, we are going to re-enable this service, so the previously imported checkbox is selected, and the actions to perform on the skill dialog are displayed. Update Publish Definition. We'll add the changes to what we had previously configured for this service. Publish as new definition. We'll delete previous configurations and replace them with the new configuration set on the wizard. Select the option and click on Next. Click on Yes on the warning dialog. On the User Request tab, you can define variations in how users might express a request for the service. Again, the service represents the skill dialog name. Store As shows you the intent related to the dialog. Request variations are different ways in which users can search for this service request. Let's add one more variation. Request clarification phrase. Text to display in case Chatbot cannot determine which service the user is requesting, and it needs to present this service in a list of selectable options. Let's modify this phrase by adding an extra word. Click on Next. On the Questions tab, you can modify the service question and answers to make Chatbot response in a more conversational tone. The first question from the top will be automatically selected under Service Questions. In the right pane, its options will be displayed. Include question. Select these options to include this question in the conversation. This option is not available if the question is mandatory. Natural language expression of the question. Enter a simplified form of the question. You can also add chat variables such as user last name, first name, user job title, etc. Let's add user full name. Display possible answers to this question as buttons options. Select it to display the answers to this question as options. If it's not selected, users will have to type the answer. You can also set a default answer or chatbot variables. Prompt user to confirm the default answer. If you select a default answer for the question, the chatbot will ask the user if he wants to change the answer. If you want to modify the answers, expand the question and select the answer to be modified. Its options will be displayed at the bottom on the right pane. Add natural language expression variation is another way to display the answer to the user. Let's modify it. Now click on Next button to go to the last tab on the wizard. On Publication tab, you will see a summary of the service to be enabled in Chatbot. Click on Publish button. Once this is done, you can start submitting the service requests from Chatbot. Launch the Chatbot from Innovation Studio. Let's test the clarification first. So type something that the chatbot needs a clarification for, so that it shows you a list of possible service requests. The clarification phrase is displayed here. Now type the variation we configure to request the service. The user full name variable has been added to the questions. Select the action to perform. Now select the application on which the action will be performed. Confirm the details to submit the service request. The service request ID will be displayed along with its summary. Click on it to access the service request details. If you want to open the service request in Digital Workplace, click on the Open Request icon. Click on Back to Chat. As I mentioned earlier, the wizard modifies the IBM Watson skill related to the chatbot. Let's verify it by opening the skill in IBM Watson. Click on Dialog and search for the service request name. The search results will show you the dialog name. Click on it to go to the node. This concludes the demo. We have some customization options for the chatbot. For instance, you can change the branding of the chatbot by using your organization's logo. You can also change the header logo, header text and color, and so on. The branding applies only to the chatbot web UI and not to other channels. You can also configure the dynamic options that basically are results returned to a user in a virtual agent conversation based on the user query. These dynamic options are max num of requests for status to return to user, specifies the maximum number of service requests related to the user query. The default value is 5. Max num of knowledge articles to return to user, specifies the maximum number of knowledge articles that are relevant to the user query. The default value is 5. Max num of options buttons to display per question on web channel, specifies the number of options or buttons that must be displayed. The default value is 3. Max num of assets to return to user, specifies the number of assets that should be returned to the user. The default value is 16. Now, let's see how to customize the chatbot in a demo. Let's see how to customize our chatbot starting with the look and feel. First, let's check how it looks like. Open the chatbot from the chatbot configuration options in Innovation Studio. At the top of the screen, we can see the BMC Helix logo and the chatbot name in black. The header background color is gray and the header border is orange. If we start a conversation, we can see an animation running and a robot GIF on the left side of the messages from the chatbot. Now, let's change all these elements. Go back to the chatbot configuration options and click on Skinning and Branding tab. Suppress the animation and change the header background and border colors. Change the header text color or the chatbot name color. Choose a different brand logo and a different chatbot avatar. Then click on Save. To check all these modifications, go back to the Chatbot tab in the browser and refresh the page. As we can see here, the logo has changed and the chatbot name. Header and border colors too. There is no more animation when starting a conversation, and the robot GIF in the messages has changed. As a reminder, the branding changes apply only to the web UI and not to other channels. Now, let's see how to modify the chatbot dynamic options. Go back to the chatbot configuration options and click on Clear Configuration so that we can revert back the UI changes. Click on Save and go back to the chatbot to refresh it. Let's review how many knowledge articles, server requests, and buttons in the server request questions are currently displayed. If I type a query to get knowledge articles, I can see that the chatbot shows me 5 of them. For the case of getting my server request status, we can see 5 as well. And if we request a service, we can see 3 buttons tabs for the request question options. If the question has more than 3 options, there is a button called Show All that displays all the options for the questions, including those displayed on the buttons. Let's change this behavior. In the chatbot configuration options, under General Settings tab, we will set the dynamic options in a way that the chatbot displays 2 service requests, 3 knowledge articles, and up to 6 buttons for the service request question options. Click Save and test the changes. Now we can see that only 3 knowledge articles are displayed. Two service requests are displayed, and 6 buttons are displayed for the service request question options. This concludes our demo. BMC also has a troubleshooting guide specifically for the virtual agent. It has information to help with virtual agent most common issues and how to handle unexpected behaviors. We are not going to go through this verbatim as there are details in the troubleshooting guide itself, but I do want to cover a couple of common scenarios. One of the common issues reported by users while using the virtual agent is the 402 access is denied due to invalid credentials error. The cause of this issue is that there was a change in the Watson Assistant Service credentials, or the IBM Watson Cloud Service is not accessible. What we have to do here is to validate the Watson Assistant Service credentials. Check if IBM Watson is down by logging into it. Check the connectivity between Helix Virtual Agent and IBM Cloud. Another common issue is the error 400 workspace ID is not a valid GUID when starting a virtual agent conversation. The cause of this issue is that Watson skill is not configured correctly. What we have to do is open the chatbot displaying this error in Innovation Studio, and under the Chatbot Skills tab, correct the workspace ID and save the settings. In this section, I have highlighted references to key documentation which are very helpful to start working with Virtual Agent and also to perform more complex configurations. These are Tutorial, Implementing Use Cases with ChatBot Starter Kit, Planning and Deploying BMC Helix Virtual Agent, and Integrating BMC Helix Virtual Agent with other applications. To conclude this webinar, I would like to highlight the topics we reviewed today. We checked what is IBM Watson and some of its concepts, BMC Helix Virtual Agent architecture. We also learned how to set up and customize the virtual agent and how to integrate Digital Workplace Catalog with Virtual Agent. This is all from my side. Thank you, everyone. Back to you, Greg.
Thank you. And now I'll take us through the self-help in contacting BMC. The YouTube channel where this webinar will be posted is listed here. It contains past webinars as well as a rich set of how-to videos. The Connect with BMC Helix ITSM and Remedy webinar schedule is available at this community's link. As always, contacting technical support via web, phone, email, and these social channels is available. At this time, that will conclude this webinar. Thank you for attending.